That's not how I start this. Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Jake Watches Movies recommended by Jake's Movie Picker 2K. Actually, is this episode 4? Hard to say. The Artist, Rock and Roll High School, Kroll, and then this? Is that all that there's been? Alright, welcome to episode 4 of Jake Watches Movies Jake Watches Movies recommended by Jake's Movie Picker 2K. That's not K. You might think that I'm gonna redo this, but I'm not. A few things to catch up on. First, I said that I would probably release this as a podcast. I don't know if that's gonna happen anymore. It's just I thought that I would put a lot less work into these videos, and now that I'm spending like a considerable amount of time on the videos, not that much time. Watch the videos and think of how much time you think it is, and it's probably actually more than that, but just a reasonable amount of time. But I thought it would just be like me giving my thoughts, and I didn't think it would be so much work. So now I don't think I'm gonna put the podcast together. Sorry, if people complain about it, maybe I will, but no one's gonna complain. Just put this on and listen, because the visuals aren't that amazing. Yes, so that's not gonna happen. Another thing that I've talked about and have done off and on is like talking about how the lists were made before I did it at the beginning of the videos, and then I've done it later on in videos. I'm just gonna do it right now. Let's show this. So I looked up list of action films on Wikipedia. I'm trying to move over so that this framing looks better. I just looked up list of action films, went through all the decades. This was sort of an interesting one because, obviously there's going to be a ton and a ton of them. A ton and a ton. Just like tons and tons of action films, because so many movies can be considered action films, and it's just such a staple genre and all of that. So what I tried to do was pick movies. Obviously, I didn't pick any movies that I'd seen before or hadn't seen in a very long time. That's the whole thing about this list. But I also tried to pick movies, from a bunch of different countries, different styles of movie. I mean, there's a little bit of okay, this is a superhero movie, action comedy. Oh, you can't see that. That's too far over. Yeah, so I just tried to get some different movies, different types. That's how I got, actually, Paradox on here, because it is a movie from Hong Kong. Hong Kongian? I don't think that's right. Yeah, so anyway, I'm going to try to replace it. I'm going to try to replace movies with similar movies, like from similar time periods, for at least some of these things. So let's just... Braven. Perfect. Almost certain that that's not on the list already. Just get rid of that. Braven was a 2018 film. I thought it was really interesting in this movie how there was all this action and running around and stuff, and they were always in suits. So I thought I would wear the jacket that my brother wore to prom, and it is 90 degrees out. So I've made a very good life choice. Alright, so this movie, Paradox, 2017, 2018 in some places. I think I even saw 2016 somewhere. I think 2017 is the accurate date, but whatever. These things come out, whatever. It's available for free on Amazon Prime, I believe, but it's also just free on YouTube. I should probably just link that down there, because, we're already on YouTube. It's free on YouTube, and I watched it on YouTube because YouTube had it was in Cantonese on YouTube, whereas the Amazon version only had dubs, which I'm okay with dubs sometimes, but it seems like it just seems like it wasn't a very good one. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't have any particular reason. If the subtitles weren't available, I would have been fine with it. Here's just the quick plot summary of this movie, as neutrally as I can try to give it. Lee is a detective in Hong Kong. Somewhere in Hong Kong, probably there's some more specific detail I could give, but I don't remember. He has a daughter who is... So we sort of find out information in an interesting, non-chronological order. But basically, here's the thing, is that his wife has died. His daughter, he finds out, is engaged to this guy who isn't going to school. He's working at a bakery, I think, something like that. So Lee goes to the bathroom, calls some detectives to get him taken away. This leads his daughter to go to Thailand. Let me make sure it's Thailand. Yes. His daughter goes to Thailand just to get away from her father. And again, like, this is all sort of chopped up and given non-chronologically. She goes to Thailand. She gets kidnapped. Lee goes to Thailand to look for her after her friend, calls him and is like, hey, she hasn't come back in a few days. Just seems like one day would be enough to... So his daughter is kidnapped. He goes to find her. So at this point, you might be thinking that this movie sounds like Taken, and it does. But also... So he goes to Thailand. He goes to talk to the police. So Kit is the main Thai detective who's like doing the investigation. He has a partner who tells him like, hey, be careful about this cop. He's bad news. Like, just get his case through as quickly as you can. Kit's wife is pregnant. She starts like bleeding profusely at one point. There's just like all these additional storylines going on about, the dead wife, Lee being in charge, or the reason that she left, the other detective, the other wife. What I'm saying is it's not exactly like Taken. And all this is happening in like the first 30 minutes. So it's sort of like a lot to get hold of. And then on top of that, you're like, why is this called Paradox? Like, is there going to be some weird like sci-fi twists and turns, or like, I don't know. It was an interesting choice of title, I think. Anyway, that's a very long-winded explanation of what this movie was. Lee goes on searching. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I forgot. I left out a huge chunk of the movie, which is also in this first 30 minutes. There's this like mayor. I think he's a mayor who is up for re-election soon, and he's giving a speech, but they have to shut it down because he has like a heart issue. So they're like, there's this whole sub story about him trying to get a new heart. So like I said, there's a lot going on here. Yeah, so that's all like the intro stuff, and then it all unravels. So, what was good about this movie? I think it was, I say it's taken like, and that sounds sort of like it's an insult, but it's not. Like, I enjoy Taken, at least the first one. And then, there's movies like John Wick, which are pretty similar. So movies in that style where it's just like one man on a mission to try to get something back or try to get revenge or something, I think that can work perfectly well. I think that there are many examples of that, or some examples of that at least. Yeah, so I'm not trying to insult this movie by saying that. I think that there is some really cool choreography. I think that it's really interesting the way that they have told the story, because it does change the way that you view the characters as it unfolds, So I think if we just knew right away that Lee was responsible for her running away, it would be harder to care about him, even though he was trying to do the right thing with that, which is, we're not going to get into that discussion of whether or not that's the right thing. Well, it's not. So I guess we don't need to have that discussion. But so he's trying to do the right thing. Like, that's interesting to have that unravel as the movie's going on. The acting performances I thought were really good. Lee, the main character, like, he has some really nice emotional moments, and then he has, he's just like, gets really intense. Kit, I think, did a nice job as well. It's always interesting in movies, and then, okay, here's a whole nother conversation to get into. There's this conversation about like, well, can we enjoy movies about cops, especially with everything that's going on? Can we enjoy movies about cops, like new movies about cops? I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard thing, but also like they're detectives trying to find a missing person. So even if you don't like cops, then I think most people are okay with this sort of cop work. It's always interesting seeing how involved they get in a case, because it is their work, and they should have some amount of passion for it. But at the end of the day, like, they have to go step back and go on to another case tomorrow or whatever. So I think he did a nice job of like balancing. He has this wife who is pregnant and he's worried about her, but then there's also this other case going on. Yeah, I thought it was just really interesting the way it unfolded and the way that the characters interacted. They gave Kit some nice emotional things to care about. Yeah, that's most of what I liked about this movie. Oh, and then the fashion, like I said, this isn't a thing I disliked, but it is something a problem with not problem, but a problem with me is that I only speak English and like a small amount of Spanish, un poquito. Um, so this is a movie where they speak both Thai and Cantonese, and I think sometimes like the subtitles just look the same for both, so it's always nice if like one is in italics or something. It's always nice to have that differentiated because it is sometimes you do wonder like, oh, they're talking while he's there. Is he getting this information or does he not know what they're saying? But I think it's pretty clear. That's just a side note about my deficiencies as a human being. Anyway, on to things that I didn't like quite as much. Like I said, there is a lot to untangle in the plot. It's been a little while since I watched it. Now that I'm recording this video, so like it is just hard to remember all the stuff that happened, and it is interesting things that happened. And I don't want to spoil too much, but at some point you have to say like, can we cut this back a little bit, or like, can we make this clear why this is happening, or it just there's a lot of stuff going on. The mayor who needed a new heart, he's got like some underling who called in Kit's father-in-law, who was like, hey, we've been looking at your taxes. We think that you should tell your son-in-law to like let this case go. So you're just kind of like watching all this, like, is this all going to come together or what's happening? And it's somewhat of a satisfying ending, but at the same time, it could just be as simple as this man's daughter has been kidnapped. He goes to get her. Then all this stuff ensues. It feels messy. It feels really slow at times. There was a few times when I was like, okay, how much time has passed? And it'd be like 5 minutes or something. And it's just like, okay, I just want to kind of get through this movie. And it's not that long. It's like an hour 40, I think. The pacing just felt a little weird, especially like for it to feel slow with how much stuff there was in it. I don't know. I think that they could have distilled a few of the ideas a bit more and then just expanded on them and cut out, just really refined it more. It felt a little rushed in the way the way the story was put together. I think that was my biggest complaint, was just those little things. Overall, it just takes away from your interest in a movie when you're thinking more about how much time is left in a movie than, how much you're enjoying it. The moment that stood out to me, like I said, there was some really good stunts and all of that. I think that's one of the places that this movie really stands out, and one of the reasons that I, wanted Hong Kong movies and samurai movies and ninja movies, I guess, kung fu movies is what I'm trying to say. It's just because I like to see those different stunts because, we've seen so many fights and all of that, but they really just do stunts differently in the like kung fu martial arts style. It's really interesting to watch. Oh, this goes back to another problem of mine that I forgot. This is a mess. I'm sorry. I'm doing it non-chronologically. Some of the stunts, it really seems like they're like on a wire or something, like held up and swinging around. And that's just, when you have such cool practical stunts in a movie, it does diminish that a little bit when you're, because like the story isn't incredible or anything. The acting performances were good. They weren't, incredible either. So the stunts are really what you're coming for, and to like see them not all done practically, it's just weird. And it also makes you question like, what is the tone of this movie? Because there's all this stuff about like, is she being sex trafficked? Is this man's child is there going to be like a miscarriage or something, like all this really heavy stuff. And then not only do you have all this fighting, but it's also like kind of cartoonishly Matrixy, and not even like the Matrix, there's a good reason for it. In this movie, I don't know why it is that way. So that sort of took me out of it a little bit. But the thing that I liked, the moment that really stood out to me, I'm just going to put a clip of it right here. something we talked about last time with Kroll is like watching Kroll to see where that movie failed and why Star Wars didn't. And I think that this might be an interesting movie to look at to see like why a John Wick or a Taken works and this movie doesn't. Because I think it's, like I said, there's similar plots, but Taken's just much more simple. Yeah, you get it. I've made that point. Yeah, so now I think it's just time to give it a review. I think that I would give this movie, based on watching it one time, I would say it's about a 6 out of 10. It's nothing incredible. There are some really cool stunts in it. Okay, I have to put another clip here of just an insane, this is one of the things that I'm talking about, where it's like just an insane, like, what is the tone of this movie? Where this guy, he jumps off a roof, grabs a kid, spins around, throws the kid back on the roof, and then falls? Like, how is that being done in any practical, real way? But anyway, overall, I'd give this movie about a 6 out of 10 because I did enjoy it. I think it's a passing grade. I would say 6 out of 10, right? It's a passing grade, but just barely. It could have tipped. If it tipped just a little bit this way, it would have been. I wouldn't recommend it. But this one, I'd say, if this sounds like a type of movie you'd be into, check it out. Okay, I have this selected here. As you can see, I am randomizing the range. I have this now classic green and yellow die. I'm going to turn the camera on, give it a little roll. That's actually stayed on screen. 2, Crime, a crime film. All right. This is our first foray into crime. Let's just select all this, randomize this range. Oh boy, number 1 right there, Fast and Furious. The Fast and the Furious. Is like number 5 Fast and Furious? I think they did that sort of thing, right? All right, I'm gonna roll this now. It's coming to a stop right here with number... Oh, that must be 60, right? Okay, number 60. Oh, this is fun. I have to pronounce a French name next time. Innocence with Dirty Hands is the English translation. Les innocents aux mains sales. Oh, how? Les innocents aux mains? No, this is getting cut for sure. Yeah, this is interesting. A French film. I don't know anything about it. I just picked it randomly when I put it on the list. So check back next week and see what I have to say about
Les innocents aux mains sales.
Thank you for watching Jake Watches Movies, recommended by Jake's Movie Picker 2K, Episode 4. I will see you all next week. And here's a screen of some other stuff you can watch, I guess.